Your mic is hot.
Give me Levi. It's time. Give me Judah. Give me Levi. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The Leviticus children, I command you, love Levi, that you may abide, and exalt not yourselves against him, that you be utterly destroyed. To me alone, the king, and to him, the priesthood. And he set the kingdom beneath the priesthood. To me, he gave the things upon the earth. To him, things in the heavens. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Sunday gon' come, you deserve it. Finally free when we leave, we gon' sing like so long. Farewell. You see the feet from the north. Ain't no more shit gonna be on. He wasn't her sicker for sure. Double her judgment, she get her rule. 1 hour hate the whole. She ain't deceiving the nations no more for love. I'm telling you, you gave us all these religions. When all the commandments there from beginning, all of these oppression. Young nigga gon' you deserve. Finally free when we leave, we gon' sing like songs. Farewell. So long. Walking aside.
Being, I am your humble servant and host for tonight. I am Kyle. In the building, I got my sister Pt.2 as my co-host for tonight, as we are going into part 2 of this Hebrew state of being, of pulling the veil off the game. Also in the building, I got my young and Bella son getting ready for school. He's up, getting ready for fun tomorrow. So all praises for peace in our homes, as well as my sister Cotees. So man, this is awesome. The first time we connect X, our YouTube and our Facebook and our Instagram and all that, and it was a bit rough, but we think we've got it now. So worked it out. Sister Coty is a mad scientist when it comes to this routing of this internet and these AI and these platforms. So I'm so thankful to the Most High to have her in the building tonight. So Coty tomorrow, Say hello to everyone. Let me make sure I got it.
Yo, brother. Shalom, brother. Can you hear me?
There we go. Shalom. Yes.
Okay, we have a little bit of a delay, so hopefully that won't be an issue tonight.
Yeah, I don't hear it on this end.
Can you hear me now?
Can't
Can you
hear
hear me
you.
now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
How about now? Okay, great.
Clear.
Okay,
Clear. Yes.
perfect. Okay, so I don't think you're coming in on the mic on spaces. I don't hear you on spaces.
It says that my mic is open on spaces from my end. So let's just go. Even if it's not there, let's just go with it.
Yeah, let's go with it. We'll roll with it.
Yep, yep. So you want to say hello to everyone in the building?
Shalom, everyone. Thank you for tuning in again for another installment of Pulling the Veil Off the Pawns in the Game, Part 2. We've got a great show lined up for y'all, so stay tuned. Take out your notebooks, take some notes, because we're going to be name dropping tonight. That's right.
All right. So you did good with the first time ever. You got a feedback this time. So I don't know what that was. Everything was fine until you did that part. But yes, so I'm glad the Cote's in the building. So we're going to start with our recap of what we did on last Wednesday for this. So I'm going to screen share the clip that we did for Reels as a quick 2 minute uh, uh, summarize of everything. Here we go, guys. Hope the sound comes through. Mute my mic.
You all good, brother? Ah, so last time when we talked about pawns in the game, peoples, we brought out Project 2025 as the blueprint for this current administration. We spoke about the book by William Guy Carr called Pawns in the Game, basically how he outlines the international chess tournament. And then we had the protocols from the Zionists, right? The international plan for world domination. So it looked like my brother got that queued up and ready to share his screen.
As a true story, involving groups vying for control.
That's a terrible lag, brother. Can you hear me? Yeah, it seems like my brother's mic is frozen on his side. Maybe he's having some connection issues. We do apologize for that. Look like he's back in. Brother, come off your mic. Your mic is muted.
So I didn't hear a lag on my end when I was playing the video. Now I hear a lag when I speak, when I didn't before. Okay.
Yeah, it's frozen on YouTube. It's the screen is frozen.
So as we are trying to make this thing happen, sure why I'm having a lag in this or a so yeah.
Somebody don't
So
want
I'm
this information out, brother.
yeah. Uh, I've cut off everything. I should be the way I cut my mic off on. So this should be a regular one. We should be having feedback. I don't know what you have open. Um, have is YouTube still frozen?
All right, say something again.
Is they said they can hear the lagging on YouTube. Well, so you can hear it on YouTube. So look, this is what we're gonna do. Uh, Somehow we need to stop this loop by cutting off X. Just get out of X altogether.
I think we're good on YouTube now.
Think we're good on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm still hearing it from me, but I'm gonna try and play this video and see. So I can kind of explain. So this is a video. Yeah, you're hearing it out of speaker still coming. Look, can you how about that? Let me see. Shoot, should still not be a.
To understand how France is looking on Africa, we must first understand RIP for decades. In the 1950s and 60s, as African nations began to demand independence, France realized that political decolonization and economic freedom don't have to mean the same thing. So, Paris devised a system that was in many ways more subtle and more effective than colonialism itself. European powers had watched their colonial empires, African nations declared independence, but Paris had no intention of truly letting go. Rather than fighting independence, France branded control. It offered independence with cooperation. The age of France-Afrique had begun. The strategy was elegant in its simplicity and devastating in its effectiveness. Preserve influence without direct rule, maintain economic, military, and police without the optics of direct rule. In 1945, even before most African countries gained independence, created the CFA franc. It was split into two zones, West and Central Africa, encompassing 14 countries today. On paper, it was meant to guarantee financial stability. In practice, it became a colonial leash disguised as policy. The mechanism was simple but deeply bad. Member states were required to deposit 50% of their foreign exchange reserves into the French treasury, a condition set well into the 21st century. Though the currency was pegged first to the French franc, then to the euro, African nations had no control over their own monetary policy. France retained veto power over sanctions.
Slow, brother. Looks like your mic is muted. It says your speaker is disconnected on this side. I can't hear you. I can't hear anything. This is crazy, man. It says you're muted on my side.
Can you hear
Can
me now?
restart.
Can you hear me
Yes,
now?
I can.
Perfect.
Yes, I can.
So we're gonna, as you can, there's no echo, there's no problem, no delay right now, right?
I don't hear any.
I don't have one either. All right. So now this should be able to play without an echo.
I hope so. I'm going back on mute. Let's let it roll.
Let's see if it happens. All right. All right. Seemed like we got the technical difficulties straight. I got out of X altogether. I see Stacy's in the building. So as we are talking about the pawns in the game, Project 2025 and the elders of Protocols of Zion, this video right here, how France lost its grip on Africa by Risen Africa, explains everything that we are saying. Everything that these three books or two documents in a book is explaining. So it's going to explain from the 1900s, from the beginning of 1950s, all the way up into now. So we're going to play this clip. It's only going to last about 3 minutes, and then we're going to come back with the documents and start explaining some things. So let's get it. How they got this and how they lost losing the grip now. So they're starting from the beginning of how they got the grip, and then as they go into how they lost it to this day. Now it's about to go into the fact that Africa in the 50s thought it was about to get its own independence. It had the uprisals and everything happened, but it was a far cry from what true independence is as we know to this day. But this video is going to explain how France, even though they said they were leaving, even though they said they weren't doing it, they created a system that was more devious and more intricate and more of a yoke on a people's neck than capitalism. So understand we're in capitalism. So understand that that means that capitalism is a yoke as well. I know you think that capitalism is an outstanding, wonderful thing, and you think it's the best thing since sliced bread. But it is part of the protocols of Zion, along with Marxism and communism and all of these isms. So this is these different isms that have been put in place in different continents for different governments. So let's go. without the direct rule. A leash as policy laws.
Brother, that volume is not coming out good on YouTube. You can't hear the video.
That's
Maybe stop share screen and make sure that the sound is on.
as policy laws.
and could block access to reserves in times of need. In a financial crisis, CFA zone countries couldn't access their own funds and were forced to borrow from France at commercial rates using their own money. In 1994, France unilaterally devalued the CFA by 50% overnight. The savings of millions evaporated. Entire families went into bed thinking they were rich or middle class, but woke up in poverty or broke in a single day. This was monetary domination. But France's grip didn't stop at currency. It signed over 30 military pacts with its former colonies, allowing it to station troops, intervene unilaterally, and train local forces. By the 2000s, over 5,000 French soldiers were stationed across West and Central Africa, in Djibouti, Gabon, Senegal, Chad, and Cote d'Ivoire. These bases were strategic. France backed coups, crushed uprisings, and protected puppet regimes. When Togo's first president Sylvanus Olympio attempted to leave the CFA zone in 1963 and adopt the German Deutschmark, he was assassinated days before launching the new currency. In Cote d'Ivoire, Gabon, Mali, and Chad, France repeatedly deployed troops to shield loyal governments under the guise of fighting terrorism or ensuring stability. But the real goal was influence and access. That access paid off handsomely. French corporations secured exclusive deals to extract Africa's most valuable resources: uranium from Niger, oil from Gabon, gas from Cameroon. Riva, now Orano, controlled over 90% of Niger's uranium exports under contracts dating back to colonial times. France had promised to create a little Paris in Niger, but for over half a century, the country powered France's nuclear plants, while its own citizens remained in darkness. But France-Afrique was not built by France alone. It thrived on African complicity. Leaders like Houphouët Boigny and Omar Bongo preserved French dominance in exchange for personal power. The Alpha Quantine corruption scandal in the 1990s exposed a network of bribes and kickbacks. Oil revenues bankrolled both African strongmen and
So as we see in this video that France, their way of controlling Africa and making themselves rich in the same breath was to make them believe that they were now independent, make them believe that now the work that they were doing, they were going to get paid for, believing that this structure that France had offered them with the francophone dollar, with international trade, with their soldiers there to help them against other tribes. But this was France's way of putting in puppets, only people that would answer to what France needed, to the point that the francophone dollar doesn't even exist anymore, but they still use it in Africa in those areas that the video outlined until Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso broke away and told them, take your dollar and take your military. But this is a part of the protocols of Zion. This is written in the pawns in the game. This is something that they have done repeatedly over and over again in many nations. Some nations is socialism, some nations is communism, some nations is capitalism, some nations. But the point is that the rulers, and not America, not France, but the people that are pulling their strings, they are the pawns and the agenturs that we are speaking of in tonight's show. We're going to go, since our video did not work with the wrap up of the two, we're just going to go our information for tonight to support and continue our part two of this. And we're going to start with a section called The Influence Through Key Sectors. You ready, sis? Hopefully you won't have a feedback when you read.
Yeah, can you hear me good?
Yes.
Excellent. Let me pull up the information, my brother. I pray that everybody's feeling good.
I'm sure they
And
feel
ready
much better since we don't have no echo.
ready to get their learn on. I've been switching between tabs, brother. I didn't lost the document. Hold on one second. Bear with me, family. Bear with me. Here we go. All right. So last time when we met, we talked about the Heritage Foundation and how they put together Project 2025. Um, the Protocols of Elders of Zion talked about how they're going to use key sectors in order to bring about their world domination. They're going to bring in bring influence into these key sectors in our American life, and I guess in other governments around the world as well. So they start off with media and information, i.e., the press. So the protocol states that the press is a great force that creates the movement of thought in the people and claims to have gained the power to influence while remaining ourselves in the shade. So they're gonna be behind the scenes, like brother just said. They're the ones, they're the puppeteers, um, guiding the puppets in the game. So, so like they say, remaining in the shade through it, even printing now truth, now lies. So they're gonna print truth, but they're really lies. They're gonna tell you it's truth, but it's really lies.
And that goes back to the video of the francophone dollar. The francophone is not real. They print it. They say it's a dollar, but it's not used on any international currency level. You have to turn it into a euro, which was a French or European dollar. And that francophone, I believe it's 20, maybe 8 cents, 8 to 12 cents on a euro. So they're printing you something, telling you it's $1, but it's a lie. It's using this tool to keep you oppressed. Go ahead, sis.
So pawns in the game focuses on international intrigue, which implies manipulation of information. Project 2025 highlights the importance of the Office of Public Liaison, OPL, in building coalitions in support for the president's agenda and shaping public opinion. Um,
So,
when when
uh, so as it's saying of the president, right? And it's saying that the support for importance of the office of public liaison in building coalitions and support for the president's agenda. But what is the president's agenda, and who gave the president his agenda? And then, as you see with the video again, they put their presidents in that would do as they said. And then, as you saw, the other people that tried to create their own dollar, I forgot, I was thinking that was Gabon, they killed him a week before he was unveiling his new dollar. We also know about Libya. We also know about the others that have tried to create their own dollar, and these people have killed them. So when it says the support, and even though in America it comes across as politicians and comes across in bills, as we just had, right? What and we they're talking about the big beautiful bill that is now going to what is going to Senate now, or it passed the Senate and is going to Congress.
yeah, no, it's going back to the House of Representatives for the markups to vote on
Going
the
back.
markups.
And what she means by markup is they add and make the changes and slide in the stuff that they want. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, they call that the pork. Yeah, they might add
Yeah,
some pork here and there.
just here and there and divert some funds that were originally going this place. They do things inside that last part when they bring it back to be chopped up. But the point is that as you see it with coups in other countries, you see it here in political bashings, you see it in who gets the funding, you see people getting bought out and told, hey, you run the next one, we got you. This is all part of this design that we then from the media take these talking points that CNN and Fox and whatever news source you get, the algorithm is also now playing a supporting role to the president's agenda, to the underlings of the president, all the way up to the ones that's actually pulling the strings. You can go on, sister. I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure they understood that part. Hello. If you're talking, your mic's not on.
Oh yeah, I was just reading away. So it says that it also advocates for reviewing and editing public-facing web pages and social media accounts of agencies like USAID to conform to new administration policies and reforming the U.S. Agency for Global Media to tell America's story and promote freedom and democracy instead of anti-U.S. talking points.
Anti-U.S. talking points. So you go to college for journalism, thinking that you're going to be writing stories and you're going to be on 5 o'clock news. You think you're about to write your opinion piece or provide the news in a fair and balanced manner. Someone slides you a script and tell you, read from this. You think they stop and say, no, not gonna do it. I got morals, I got values. I don't believe in this thing that you have given me. And actually, the people look like that's not what happened. I mean, this script is opposite of what people are actually looking at. You think they do that? Maybe one or two does. You know, their answer is you want the job. You know, we just moved you here from Kentucky. You like the city of New Orleans? You like how much fun you're having down here? Like the house we put you in. We need you to read this script. Go on, sister.
So, so what we have here is protocol number 11 that speaks to what you just mentioned, brother. And so, if you would just indulge me for just a second as I read this to you for the audience. I don't know if you can see that. Do I need to make that a little bit larger, brother?
Yeah, that looked like T90, like they used to say. You may want to go a little bit bigger than that there.
How about that? Is that better?
If you got a little bit more, I'd do a little bit more. Yeah, and then slide it over. You don't need to see one side at a time. If you can make it bigger so they just see the one side. Now we talking. We cooking with, yeah, we cooking with Crisco now.
All right, say protocol number 11, because as I read this, I don't want nobody to think that I'm saying this. I want them to see this is coming from the document. So it says here the state council has been, as it were, the emphatic expression of the authority of the ruler. It will be as the show part of the legislative core, what may be called the editorial committee of the laws and decrees of the ruler. This then is the program of the new constitution. We shall make law, right, and justice and the guise of proposals to the legislative core by decrees of the president under the guise of general regulations
Hey
of
sis,
orders.
sis,
Yes.
you got your cursors right there so we can see drag to move. I think you can see that on the screen. You can move that the hand tool out the way from the paragraph because it's covering.
Okay. All right. What did I leave off of? Two, by decree of the president under the guise of general regulations, of orders of the Senate, and of resolutions of the state council in the guise of ministerial orders, and in the case a suitable occasion should rise in the form of a revolution in the state. Having established approximately the modus agenda, we will occupy ourselves with details of those combinations by which we have still to complete the revolution in the course of the machinery of state in the direction of already indicated. By these combinations, I mean the freedom of the press, the right of association, freedom of conscience, the voting principle, and any other that must disappear forever from the memory of man or undergo a
Mm.
radical alteration the day after the promulgation of the new constitution. It is only at the moment that we shall be able at once to announce all our orders, for afterwards every noticeable alteration will be dangerous for the following reasons. If this alteration be brought in with harsh severity and in a sense of severity and limitations, it may lead to a feeling of despair caused by fear of new alterations in the same direction. If, on the other hand, it be brought in a sense of further indulgences, it would be said that we have recognized our own wrongdoing, and this will destroy the prestige of the infallibility of our authority. Or else it would be said that we have become alarmed and are compelled to show a yielding disposition, for which we shall get no thanks, because it will be supposed to be compulsory. Both the one and the other are injurious to the prestige of the new Constitution. What we want is that from the first moment of its promulgation, while the peoples of the world are still stunned by the accomplished fact of the revolution, still in a condition of terror and uncertainty, they
Terror.
should recognize they should recognize once for all that we are so strong, so insponsible, so super abundantly filled with power that in no
Mm.
case shall we take any account of them, and so far from paying any attention to their opinions or wishes, we are ready to be able to crush with irresistible power all expression or manifestation thereof at every moment in every place that we have seized at once everything we wanted, and shall in no case divide our power with them. Then in fear, in trembling, will they close their eyes to everything and be content to await what will be the end of it all.
Mm, mm, mm.
So
Awake to
that was
what
a
will be
lot.
with all. And it says, we are the wolves underneath there, huh?
They say we are the wolves, but brother, that
Oh,
was a lot to unpack. They're talking
yes.
about legislative cores in the Senate, right? So the
Yes.
state council was spoken of in William Guy's Pawn to the Game, right? The book.
Yes.
That state council is that governing body.
Mm-hmm.
When most people would read that and think we're talking about the United States legislative core or the Senate. No, this is the Senate under this. This is the legislative core in the Senate under this state council. That's an international council.
So what she's saying is that what you may consider a lobbyist or a group that is influential, such as the Heritage Club, that these people are the ones that are actually controlling those said politicians, that their council, that their how how they set up their I guess you could say brass or their hierarchy, right?
Right. Exactly. Those are the ones that's going to be remain in the shadows. Those are the ones that you don't see. And then you have the pawns, which are the agitors, doing all the dirty work for those people that's in the shadows.
Which are the politicians, right? You guys got to
No,
understand
the
the
politicians are
agitors
actually the pawns, right?
right. Hmm.
Right. So
Right.
they say we are wolves. There, this is now we're going back to the protocols of the elders of Zion. They say we are wolves. Number four, the goyim are a flock of sheep, and we are the wolves. And you know what happens when the wolves get hold of the flock. There is another reason also why they will close their eyes, for we shall keep promising them to give back all their liberties we have
Mm,
taken away as soon as we have quelled the enemies of peace and tamed all parties. Now, I immediately think about when they took away, when they started NSA and the surveillance after 9/11.
absolutely.
Um,
I
yeah,
also take it to the fact of when they are in the paragraph above, right? This is a continuation that through their legislation that they have created these revolutions, created all of this discourse, all this confusion, and all this terror, right? Through their policies that they have pushed the politicians to do. Their legislative core that they created that are telling these politicians the pawns, right, to be agitors, creating this mayhem and misham that creates this revolution type thing to where everybody's in disarray, and it's that chaos out of its
Order out of
um,
chaos.
order out of chaos. Thank you, order out of chaos. And then it goes in to explain why, because they are the wolves, right? And for us as the goyim, as everybody else that's not them, once they put this array in, everybody's scared. And as one particular example, and they've done it many times, but 9/11 using that, which many people call a conspiracy, many people say many things about what 9/11 really was. That's on you. But what it did do was bring a scenario that brought about them having the ability to so-called bring safety to everyone with all these new rules and regulations that really brought on Big Brother. I mean, Big Brother was a TV show, right, that happened right before 9/11, or did that come after 9/11?
I think it was after 9/11.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So we're talking about how this whole thing is talking about how media, as we started off with media and the influence, and how it social engineers to the people. So you go through the 9/11 and they put in all these things, and then they put a TV show on it. They make number one about Big Brother to make everybody feel comfortable about somebody always looking at them. That's the three-layer connection. They created through their policies and the libertarians, right? They
There you go.
created the problem. The politicians did it as pawns, and then put they with the bombing. They created a scenario with the bombing, then put the politicians in to do their pawns to say we need this, to say that, to tighten the noose, and then they swooped around to the media, to the influencers, gave them a number one show for 10 years. I think Big Brother was the number one show to get us okay with the understanding that somebody's always watching us. And then we had a whole reality show, 20 years of reality shows, of everybody seeing seeing people in their intimate moments.
Oh, brother, I never even thought of it that way. Oh, wow, that is yes, sir. Even though
Yeah,
I never really got down with the reality shows, but you got something right there, my brother. Mm, yes, sir.
this is how they've done it. We already pointed out in the introduction that they control the media. That was a major aspect of misinformation, and disinformation is a major part of their protocols, and it's through all of their
Agenda.
protocols. No matter what protocol it is, there's going to be a aspect of fooling people. What you about to say?
I was about to say that they like to bring, like you was talking about, they create the chaos and then they bring in the order, like it says here in this document. Like they say they're gonna, um, they're mean to take away the freedom of the press, the freedom of right of association. They're gonna take all those things away from you through legislation, and then they're gonna make a promise to give it back to you. Did they say that? That's what they said.
Yep. They say they
They
make a
said they're gonna
promise to
make
give
a
you back your
promise, but they're really not.
yeah. They really not. And they
they,
say we never
they
go.
really
We have
not.
no intention on the last sentence of that says we're not. You know what I'm saying? And it says above the wolves right there, and it says that therefore every moment and in every place that they have seized at once. But right above that sentence, it speaks of the libertarians and the fact that they will be begging for it. So you want to say that these protocols are false, that it's not really true. You want to say that Pawns in the Game is a fictitious book of conspiracy theory. You want to say Project 2025 has nothing to do with these two documents, one book and a document. We are showing you that from not just, we went to 1773 when the seven countries invaded North America and chopped it up. We're now showing you the video of Africa when how the same way France did it to Africa, and how did they do it from 1804 in the Louisiana Purchase? They took the money from the Louisiana Purchase that's just being circulated amongst the Vatican vassals, which is the European nations. they work in confederacy to do this in all nations, as many nations as they can. Some could say, and it would be illegal. I was going to say that all non-Muslim states are affected by this, but that would be a falsity because the Shiites, the present-day Iranians, oh yeah, see the Shiites are from the Dome Jews, the Turkish Jews that were Khazarian Jews as well, but they decided to switch over to Islam because the original bloodline of Muhammad was through the Sunni. So you had war on the Muslim country between the Sunnis and the Shiites because the Shiites believe you wanna guess why the Sunni and the Shiite fight against each other? You guys want to take a gander since we're in the protocols and we're talking about laws and kings and presidents, right? Well, the beef between the Sunni and the Shiites is that the Sunnis believe that the leader of the Islam nation should be of the bloodline of Muhammad. And the Shiites believe that it should be a diplomatic process. You can't make this
Democracy.
up. Democracy, which is what the Protocol of Zion is. And I'm telling you, the Shiites are converted Jewish people that became Iranian. I want y'all to put that in y'all pipe and smoke that, man. I really want you to put that in your pipe and understand the books that in the protocols you just read, how it said what it was going to do, and that they were going to spread themselves throughout all nations. And I was about to erroneously say, oh, it's just only the Western nations that they've done this to. And I'm thankful for the Most High stopping me and say, whoa, boy, you do remember what I showed you, right? That the Shiites were Dome Jewish converts that were from Bulan to Khazarians to Jewish to now being Muslim in Iran and wanting to have, political leadership. Yeah, man. I hope y'all understand how these protocols stop nowhere. How this is a global thing that they've done, not just in America, not just in Africa, not just in the Caribbean, not just in South America, not just in Iran.
So they give us the purpose right here. Number 7 says, for what purpose then have we invented this whole policy and insinuated it into the minds of the Goyim, the Goy, without giving them any chance to examine its underlying meaning? For what indeed, if not in order to obtain in a roundabout way what is for our scattered tribe unattainable by the direct road? It is this which has served as the basis for our organization of secret masonry, which is not known to and aims which are not even as much as suspected by these Goy cattle, attracted by us into the show army of Masonic lodges in order to throw dust in the eyes of their fellows.
So there's a lot to unpack right there, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna start at the end and go backwards, right? So when they speak of dust in the eyes of their fellow, just as I explained the Dome Jews and going into the Shiites, this is the same thing that happened with what you would call the Masonic order, that it was actually an Egyptian practice, which we know were melanated people. But then over time and through conquerings and many things, Plato, Herodotus, Alexander the Great, Ptolemy, Seleucus, after all of that, it became a Scottish rite. Okay? So the Scottish rite is these people, right? This is when they talk about masonry, they are the Prince Hall, Original, and there's Prince Hall Affiliate. That's the two black branches, and they use it as the compass, right? One side is Scottish Rite, and the other side is, oh man, I can't believe I can't remember that right now.
Isn't it the Grand Orient?
Maybe, yes, the Grand Orient, right? So Scottish Rite and Grand Orient. Grand Orient is above them, right? That would be your Jewish people, right? The Scottish Rite is the pawn side, and then the Prince Hall original affiliates at the bottom, at the bottom B. I'm about to break this down for y'all, all right? All right.
And they would be the Agenturs.
And they would be the Agenturs, right? And they, the boule, you know what I'm saying? They would be the Masons, that would be the boule that come in and be over us, right? Like Pac was talking about the beef between him and Biggie, and they said it was all about to see who was going to be the king of the nigga nation, of the nigga kingdom. Oh yeah, we going all through this, man. So when they say spit in the face of their fellows, they are doing and practicing a style of masonry that spits in the original form, in the original creators of it. That's what they mean by spitting their fellows in the face of their fellows. What you really want you to understand that. Now, let's go back up because they got so much more. So when it tells you that they create their own secret masonry, what is it talking about? When they said their own secret masonry of Scottish Rite, well, it's called Kabbalahism, the Cabal. Y'all see a sign all the time. It's a hand with an eye in it. You know you've seen it. The blue ball with the eye, that's all back to the Kabbalahism that came into the medieval time that they brought in as their secret masonry. Oh man, I pray that y'all understanding that we dropping lines here. We dropping. Somebody should be knocking at my door talking about they want to take me for interrogation. Feel what I'm saying? It's not a game. People ain't playing with you. You sitting up here trying to run for an office. I almost used profanity just now. But I want this so clean that y'all can't say nothing. But you want to run for office. But you want to fight about immigrants. You want to worry about Diddy. You want to think it's a celebration for black people that Diddy got. What? You want to turn this into racism? You are so silly. We are breaking down to you global, international, local, national, regional control over people you don't even know, people you can't even touch, things that have been put in place in 1773 with the Rothschilds. This is what we're telling you tonight. This ain't no entertainment about Diddy. This ain't no entertainment about no Cameron and Mace. This ain't no, no, not Cameron. What's it called? Jim Jones and Nas. No, none of that. This is real. This is not conspiracy theory. This is real. This is what people have died for trying to explain to people. This is Fred Hammond getting shot in the house with his wife, with his pregnant woman. This is what this is. When you start piecing this together, when you start making sense to people, and people start saying, whoa, I see the line, like my sister said tonight, I didn't even put in the fact that 10, 15 years of block of us going through reality shows, and Big Brother was conditioning us to allow ourselves to be doing what we're doing right now, broadcasting on podcasts and doing vlogs every night, trying to get people to tune in, to switch over, switch over. Y'all don't believe it though, huh? Y'all don't believe our report. Y'all not believing our report. This has been too confusing for you. This has been too boring for you. We ain't even started. Let's go to the next one, sis.
The next protocol and number 8.
No, we are at
number 8 here.
Going back to our original document. Going back to our original document. And we at the Tell America Story and Promote Freedom and Democracy instead of anti-talking points, right? So as we have outlined, and my sister's going to expound on this, when it comes to these different organizations as agenturs besides the politicians that have been playing their role. Because as they gave Africa, as France rather gave Africa the illusion of being free, so do you have the same illusion. And here in America, it may look a little bit different. We're not up there as destitute as African. That's only because of the lot that was pulled, that they were going to make this their new ground here, their new money making enterprise. That's what America was. That's why we live in the way we are. But we could look just like Africa or the Caribbean in some worse places if this place wasn't designated as their cash cow. Read what you have there, sister. So it says the illusion of freedom of press and speech. They are the creators of propaganda, entertainment, and games. You want to expound on the rest?
Right. So, entertainment. They give us football, they give us basketball, and we are excelling in all of those sports, right? But they are all controlled. They tell them what to say, who to affiliate with, and how to spend their funds. I.e., let's take Colin Kaepernick for example. He took a social stance, right? Now, because of that, he was blackballed, but they allowed him to do a whole documentary after it was all said and done, and nobody was talking about him anymore.
Anymore.
Nobody was saying Black Lives Matter anymore. They allowed him to make a movie. He got paid, and now they're on with their next agenda. The Black Lives Matter, the whole Black Lives Matter thing came about and took legs, started out as a grassroots movement and took legs for the simple fact that George Soros came in and used his money to help promote it
And
spread proper.
Don't forget that he came in.
Spread the propaganda that not only does Black Lives Matter, but LGBTQ lives in the Black community matter. Also, they made the Black community the poster child for the LGBTQ Black Lives Matter movement. And
wow, circumventing the original organizers of Black Lives Matter, right, and replacing them with the guy you all know as D-Ray or whatever the dude name was.
Yeah, that supposedly, allegedly, I think ran off with all the money.
Supposedly, right? Nobody knows where he is.
Right. So, God bless them, but the point is they were being used. They were being used as pawns to spread a propaganda to get Black people specifically all riled up in the streets to cause what? Chaos. What happened during 2020, 2021? And because of that, we got new laws on how they handle what? Protest. How that work? And so we were unwittingly, those people who got out there and was thinking they were protesting for injustice, for police brutality and whatnot, they had another agenda. They wanted you to get out there in the streets. They showed you what they want you to see in order to push their agenda.
Absolutely. That was so well said, because understand that, and many have said, I see my brother Scott's in the building, that there's been many people that were more worthy of the response that George Floyd got than George Floyd. And they say, well, how was he become the poster child? Well, as he just stated, with George Soros, who is a crypto Jewish person, as member of their protocols, went ahead and put the money in, created the chaos, and then brought forth what did you say? How did you say what they brought forth with the from the George Floyd, the surveillance, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, no, the surveillance got put in. No, what got put in? They changed the legislative law for protest. How they handle protest.
Right, you
You
changed it
know,
for
like
protest. My bad. Right.
it's not a protest if you have to tell the police that you're about to protest. You have to file for a permit if you're gonna protest, but
For,
that's not a protest. That's a rally. You know what I
that's a
mean?
rally.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so they just have basically quelled your First Amendment right, freedom of speech, because that's what the protest is all about, freedom of speech. And they say right here they're gonna take those liberties away. That's their main goal. Take them away through legislation so that you can get all in your feelings about them, so that they can come back and tell you, oh, we're gonna restore them. So you
Yeah.
can get on their team. And like they said, we
And
have
no,
no
no, hold on,
intention.
hold on. What they do is they go into our community and say, "Hey, this election cycle matters. You got to vote if you want your liberties back. If you want to be able to tell them not to do this when you didn't have no say so in them doing it, but you did. You got on a picket line. You gave them all of the juice that they needed to make the law happen, and now you're going back to repeal a law that you marched for that you didn't know was going to be the end result of your march. Y'all don't see the twist in this? Y'all see how
Okay,
twisted?
brother. Do you see what it says there in number 6? Please read what it says in number 6. Can you see that? Or you
Number
want me to
six
read it?
says, yeah, I can. Number 6 says, it is not worth to say anything about how long a time they will be kept waiting for this return of their liberties. I'm gonna read it again. It, it is not worth to say anything about how long a time they will be kept waiting for this return of their liberties. Like we ain't gonna we're gonna keep them wanting for these liberties so long that we don't even have to put like we need to do it for 10 years, 30 years, or 100 years. We don't need to put a plan in for that, right? They gonna forever want that, but we ain't never gonna give it to them. 400 years we've been fighting.
Okay. So now that we dealt with the entertainment and the games, let's talk about the community, such as how they keep us fighting over our status, who we are as a people.
Mm-hmm.
The whole uh, FBA, Foundational Black American, newfound title, when traditionally we have been known as descendants of slaves, right? Descendants of
Negro,
chattel slavery,
Negro.
descendants of Negro slavery, right? We were
Mm-hmm.
Negroes. They introduced all these different statuses, African American, Black, Negro. Well, not Negro. That was already traditional from the land. Most people don't know that, but
That's what's in
but these
that's in
others.
the birtherism. That's written in a birtherism document that everybody talking about these days. The word Negro.
Yes, right. So these other names and terms are relatively new, and in my personal opinion, that is to keep us. It's propaganda that they put in there to keep us divided, so that we could never become one nation.
That's right.
Because if we are recognized as one nation of people, then that means effectively we are a nation within a nation, and they can then pay reparation,
You think that
restitution.
would be why? You think that would be why they would say that we have still been only 13% of this nation, to try and say that we're not really big, we're not that large that we could be a nation. We're only 13%.
Well, no, because they recognize Israel as a nation, and they just said this year said that and passed legislation recognizing them as a minority. Jewish people in the Jewish Americans are now recognized as an American minority, like you
So
and
they
I.
so that they can apply for all of the different bills that have been set out for minorities, the same way they did DBA and let Caucasian women come in and get the contracts for their husbands. What I'm saying,
Exactly.
right, what I'm saying is that when they tell us 13% is a psychological psyop, that to make us think that we aren't that large to be a nation. But
Right.
yet they'll tell you that in 2050 we're supposed to have more black people than or brown people than Caucasians. Well, if you can say that in one sentence, how can we still be 13%?
But it really doesn't matter what percentage you are to be a nation, obviously, because they're saying that the Jewish people are less than the Black Americans and they're considered a nation. They have a nation.
And no, that's because they have a landmass. That's why they
They,
consider that.
but they also that brings us to this next point, how they create propaganda and they create these organizations to push their propaganda, i.e. the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, that protects these minorities, i.e. Jewish people. That's a nation of people.
That adds another Agenturs, right? The other agencies that they have created, such
To
as the
protect them.
ATL, I'm trying to think of some. I mean, FBI, the CIA, income tax, the IRS. These are all
ACLU.
ACLU. All of these organizations are subvergent, 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 subvergent to our communities.
Oh yeah, they've been there. They go in and spread propaganda and also infiltrate.
Mhm.
Especially, we already know about the FBI and the CIA how they do, but they particularly send in or establish organizations to be so-called on our side, i.e., the NAACP.
I.e., the housing authority, the child protection agencies, CPA.
Right. See, there you go. Now you're getting it.
Those, yes, those agencies actually come in to tally you, make sure that the CPA was used before in the 60s to make sure that the men weren't in the house in order for you to get your check.
It's a way to police you to make sure that you're staying in line with their protocols. You're going.
Exactly.
So that's a way of controlling you.
And
Right.
so, as now we go, and which also ties in is our next point of the economic leverage, right?
Right.
The protocols assert control through disposition, uh, dis, despotism,
Despotism
des-
of capital.
despotism of capital, aiming to establish huge monopolies and identifies gold as the engine of machinery of states. So just in those that two sentences, we understand that making money hard for people to get, the huge monopolies. We've had so many legislations here. They're trying to break up one right now. I forgot what industry that they're doing it in, but they're trying to break up a yet another monopoly. But that's also a falsehood as well, because when they break it up, they just put it amongst their people, or they rename it and give it to their cousins in some other place. So they just distribute it in a different manner. But these monopolies very much exist. And it identifies gold as the engine of machinery of state. So when you have bricks now telling America that your fiat dollar that's not backed by gold, now that's how they are using to deflate this and destroy this and go into this new system. But BRICS system is based upon gold, based upon the actual materials of the earth. So when it says, it also discusses manipulating loans and taxes to exert control. We all understand how it is to get loans for businesses, and we're supposed to be in a nation that is about capitalism. So the core of capitalism is the banking. In order for you to get funded or sponsored or grants or any of this, all going through the banking industry that the Rothschilds own. So that is yet another exert of control. And in Pawns in the Game is about the international chess tournament to decide which group would win ultimate control of the wealth, natural resources, and manpower of the entire world. Project 2025 emphasizes physical discipline, significant cuts to federal spending, and promoting economic growth. Now, these are contradictory words, but all of them support their global plan, right? So, discipline what are we talking about? Physical discipline, not spending money, not giving money to the people, keeping the money with the government. That's what they mean by that. They are not talking about the government actually being physically responsible. No, they're saying that we're going to stop giving money. We're going to start extracting more money from the people. We're going to manipulate these loans, and we're going to manipulate the natural resources and the manpower of the entire world. When they say significant cuts to federal spending, who are they talking to? We all know as melanated people what federal spending mean, or what the news tell us federal spending means. What did Doge do? Doge came in and got rid of what? U.S. aid. They got rid of all of what they call the fat. They were trying to get rid of Social Security. What federal cuts were they talking about? To DI, to the black, the DBA businesses? Those were the ones that was the fat. The minority businesses, the minority contracts, that was the physical. And promoting economic growth. How, Sway? That's opposite of everything else you just said. Regulatory streamlining. It also seeks to counter economic aggression from China, including its Belt and Road Initiative and debt traps. So what they're saying is they want to circumvent China and the Eastern countries from using their BRICS organization of natural resources to build a connecting community internationally through their Belt and Road initiatives, from China to Africa to Saudi Arabia, all the way up to Turkey, Kazakhstan. That would be a problem for them, right? So understanding who's the true and why China's an enemy and why Russia's an enemy, not the things that they tell you on the news, but understanding from their perspective of the Zionists, of the protocols of Zion, why China and Russia is a problem. And it says, so with that, I'm segueing into the Louisiana Purchase and Napoleon, and understanding that this nation here that they turned into a cash cow was and is one of the most minerally rich, one of the most economically rich place in the world. And we don't extract half as much of oil that we have in the Gulf. We don't mine like we mine in other countries here, but we have just as much as any other nation in the continent and across the world. So when Napoleon came in and did the Louisiana Purchase, it gave way to France. It gave way to the Western nations being able to build themselves off of America, the human workforce that became the slavery, right? That built this nation, that it says they want to control the manpower of the entire world. So in Americas, we got the manpower going, and the Caribbean and South America. In Africa, we've got the extracting of the minerals that now gives them the money to oppress the other nations. Louisiana Purchase of 1804 was monumental, as these Myers and whatnot had just gotten their butt whipped in the Ottoman and the Byzantine wars. They had to reestablish themselves after now moving from Jerusalem to the Vatican. I pray y'all understand how all this is interconnected. Since you want to go into Pawns in the Game, page 61.
All right, here we go. So you were speaking on Napoleon, and it reads here, history records that Judah P. Benjamin, a Rothschild relative, was appointed as their professional strategist in America. The American Civil War, which split the Union in two, became an accomplished fact. Napoleon III was persuaded by the bankers to extend his French Empire into Mexico. The
Napoleon III. First, I want to stop real quick.
Okay.
How many of y'all heard of Napoleon III? That's not a very popular name, huh? All you hear about is the great thing of Napoleon I, right? You don't hear after the Louisiana Purchase and how all of it got twisted, right? Go on, sister. I'm sorry.
Napoleon III was persuaded by the bankers to extend his French Empire into Mexico. The British government was persuaded that the northern states could be made into a colony again. The Civil War in the United States was an economic war brought about by the international bankers. By applying economic pressure, it was a simple matter to aggravate the economic difficulties the northern states encountered after the slaves had been given their freedom. Abraham Lincoln admitted, no nation can long endure half free and half slaves.
Oh.
The international bankers loaned unlimited credit to all forces engaged by the South fighting the forces of the North. They loaned Napoleon III 200.5 million francs for his Mexican campaign. When the Confederacy needed assistance in 1863, the powers that be offered Napoleon Texas and Louisiana in exchange for a French intervention against the northern states. The Czar of, yeah, that was Napoleon III. Okay,
the Yankees, right? We're talking about the Yankees, right?
That would be the Northerners. It's the Yankees.
Yeah. So I just want people to, hear the terminology and how far, not that far off, and just keeping them some time periods here.
Here we go. The Tsar of Russia heard of these preposterous offers, and he informed the governments of England and France that they actively intervene and give military aid to the South. Russia would consider such action as a declaration of war against the Imperial Russian Empire. To strengthen his ultimatum, Russian warships were sent to New York and San Francisco and placed at Lincoln's disposal. So wait a minute. So the Russians were backing Lincoln.
Yep.
And France and England was backing the South.
No, the Yankees, the North.
No.
Yeah, you're right, because Lincoln was not trying to, Lincoln was attempting to free the slaves for the North because the South was bullying them and did not want to share the proceeds with the North. So the North was with the French, you're saying?
No, the North was with Russia.
Right, with Russia.
And the French and the British government was
with the South.
with
To cut off the north, to cut off the north and be their own nation because
yeah.
France would already been here in the South in Louisiana before the British ever came along. That would have made sense to them.
Well, it looks like I think France. You see how they do it, but at any rate, the point is the adjutor, the puppet masters are controlling both sides.
Both sides, both.
That's the point. Because the point here is that they loan both sides money.
That they did. That
So
they did.
that's the whole point. So
And
they
all the
says
wars.
so it says when the northern authorities found themselves in financial difficulties, the international bankers didn't refuse to loan the money. They simply stipulated that the rate of interest to the northern states would be 28%. After all, they were in the business of money lenders. An important aspect of the American Civil War is that it would in all probability have reached a conclusion in a few months had not the international moneylenders made fresh loans. These loans were usury. They were based on terms and rates of interest which were calculated to give international bankers control of the economy of the whole country. When they considered it time, they ended the war.
So, and just kind of add to that, after this whole war scenario happened, right? And they had the Civil War, and you have, as she read in the beginning of it, Judah P. Benjamin, who was the of the Rothschild, the banking, right? He was here in New Orleans. Like we said, there's a historical aspect of him, Albert Pike, and John Slidell, which we still have Slidell written after right now. That those were the three that started comas here. So not only was Albert Pike, who was a Mason, right, who was a 33rd Albert Pike, rewrote the Freemasonry rights, as a matter of fact. So when we're, tying in this international Masonry thing as well, Albert Pike was he wrote the book Dogma and Rights and Dogma, I think, um, which were the new rights of the one that spit in the face of their fellows. He wrote the brand new rights for the Masons. So all three of them were here and to bring that civil war about. And then afterwards, it was the Reconstruction, right? After the Civil War, there were many people in the South at that time, black slave owners, right? And Judah Pinchback was the black governor. You had many black people that were in control of the Congress or the Senate here, the House here, right? And they brought Mardi Gras here. These three men that created Coleman, Judah P. Benjamin, Albert Pike, and Slidell brought Mardi Gras here and used it as a political way of destroying the black leadership by making floats and making fun and mockery of all of the black elected officials. Remember, at this time, you did not need a college degree to be in office, or to run for office. All these things came after they got the black people out of being in control in the South. So, yes, you had black people that were enslaving other black people in the South, as well as other nations here enslaving black people in the South, as well as Huguenots, Jacobites, and so many others that were participating in this global slave trade from Florida to Louisiana, not so much in parts of Texas as well. So when we're talking from Napoleon and all the way to the Civil War, to how they flipped it over, bringing in entertainment. The game is robust the way they roll. So I think we are getting to the end because we've been going for almost 2 hours now. Well, hour and a half. we've already played the video, so we can read the. We can either go into personal bureaucracy next week, or you want to go into this paragraph now, which gives us all these other protocols. We'd like to put this on part 3 to send us into the black agenturs.
Well, I guess we could end it with protocol number 6 and pick up with personnel and bureaucracy and combine that with the Black American agitors.
Yes. So you want to read the parts of 6 and then come back with the.
No, no. Let 6 begin, and then we come back next week with personnel and bureaucracy.
All right. You can go ahead and read.
I'm gonna let the computer read if you don't mind.
Then we're going to end off with Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, guys.
Did you hear that playing, brother?
No.
All right, hold on. Let's do something here. All right.
Take over technique 1. We shall soon begin to establish huge monopolies, reservoirs of colossal riches, upon which even large fortunes of the Goyim will depend to such an extent that they will go to the bottom together with the credit of the states on the day after the political smash. Compulsory superannuation, socials.
What you doing, sis?
You can't hear it, brother?
No. You can't hear nothing. We see the colors moving from part to part, but there's no sound.
All right, hold on a second. That's crazy. Well, appears as though we're going to end it there, brother. Go ahead with your Daniel 7. Let me get that on the screen for you.
So, guys, we've given you guys a lot of information tonight. There's a lot more to go. I don't want this to get to the point where it's too overwhelming and you're not able to digest what we've given. I would suggest that you guys check this out again. If it matters to you to understand that why the world is the way it is, why it looks the way it does, why it seems to be invisible ceilings and walls around you, take another listen to what we presented tonight. We are fighting not against flesh, but principalities. And even as we have outlined the layers from the Goyim to the Agenturs to the pawns to the legislative branch of these mysterious medieval Kabbalah people. As we've, laid out these multiple layers, I see my cousin Mike is in the building. I just don't want you to believe in any form of fashion that you don't have any power. We have clearly outlined obstacles that most mere man and woman would feel like they can't do nothing. They can't make a move. The game is fixed. You always knew all, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there is a way to break through this. That breakthrough is through your creator, through the Most High. So we're going to read Daniel because the Most High spoke about all of this. In Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, it says, he will speak words against the Most High. Everything that we have presented tonight, the plans, the plots, how it's played out, the manifestations, every aspect of it is against the Most High. Why? The Most High clearly outlines in the Old Testament that he abhors men that do not pay men their proper hire. That's salary, that's wages. I'm talking down at the bottom here of how the Most High has an issue with what has been done to us on so many levels. This nation is built on slavery. That is the definition of cheating a man of his hire. This is speaking against the Most High's will. It says he will speak words against the Most High and will harass the holy ones of the Most High, us. He will think of changing times and laws. All we've laid out tonight is their ways of controlling us through the laws that they institute that are against the 10 commandments, the laws of the Most High. Even if you want to extend to the 613 that these same Jewish people decide to pick out and create. Most High gave us 10. He said, read and understand the rest of moral codes that you should already be aligned with if you are following 10. He said that they will think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time of the biting, until any time of the biting of times. Now, that prophecy, many people go into the years and Daniel. We're not going into that tonight. What we're explaining just clearly is that it's been written that this oppression that we will be under in these end times, that the beast would be against the Most High. We're saying these protocols, the authors, the participants, the web, the RICO, The Rico Zionists, they are that beast that will change laws, change times, speak against the Most High. And man, the Goyim, the holy ones of the Most High, have sold ourselves out for the money, for the monetary gains, for the survival in this present time. I am not putting any disparaging things upon my ancestors. What they went through was on them. They had the 1391 massacre of the Hebrews in Spain and Portugal. You had the Inquisitions. You had the Crusades, where they killed our people. They smashed our babies' heads on walls. The Maccabean Wars to turn us into Christians. These are the beasts that the Most High is speaking of, and Daniel is giving his report. I pray that these words resonate with you. I pray that you understand that the beast can only be defeated by your prayer, you following the laws of the Most High and not theirs. The only way you're going to defeat this system, the Agenturs, the Agenturs, the adversaries, these ADLs and organizations, how are you going to beat them? Following the law, being a holy one, being what He ordained you to be, connecting with others of the Most High, of the body of Yasharala. Listen to the Most High, pray, and know that He's going to provide grace, mercy, and covering. As 10,000 may fall to one and to the left and 1,000 to the right, you will be standing. All praises unto the Most High. That's it for me, my sister. What are you? How do you please bid the good people of farewell until our next Wednesday meeting?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me on the stage with you again tonight. Next week, we're going to get into the personnel and bureaucracy of the Zionists and protocols and how they're going to intend to undermine all systems of faith of the Goyim. That would be, they consider us Goyim. So, yeah, so they want to destroy the very principle of the Godhead. So tune in next Wednesday as we continue to break down who are the pawns in the game and expose the Zionist game that they have. Until then, I bid y'all love, the love of Yahuwah. Shalom.
All praise to the Most High. Be shalom.